I've never had a financial target after that. I do have one. I like to always have just £1 million in cash in my bank account. That's one thing. I like to do it, and I do that. I keep that there. I don't know. It's just a mental thing.
Welcome to another episode of Recipe to Success. As you can tell, this one's a little bit different. We're in the beautiful home of one of our guests that has previously been on. Without further ado, let me introduce him. Z, thank you so much for coming back on. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me in your home. This is such a nice set. I think we're really going to enjoy this one.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. You know, when you mentioned the Let's Do Another podcast, I thought the first one we've done it in the office. Let's change up the environment, because you find also that you have different sorts of conversations in different settings.
Very true.
Right?
Very true.
When you're in the office, you're in a certain sort of mindset. When you leave the office and you transition into your home, your mindset changes. So let's see, we might get a different angle today.
And this is the first time we've done a part 2 with any guest, because most of the time you want to hear about the guests, their story and how they made it, and what advice they can give. But with your one, it was not only was it one of the most viewed episodes and most downloaded episodes, but it was the most, I feel like, influential episode where people actually benefited and got value out of it. And all the time people were like, get him on again, get him on again, get him on again. And there was so much that we didn't talk about as well that we can really go into now. So really, really excited. Make sure you subscribe as well. So let's start off by talking about, in fact, let's give the people a little bit of a reintroduction for anyone that hasn't seen the original episode. And if you haven't, make sure you click the link below. But yeah, a little bit of an introduction, who's he is, briefly.
I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in business now for about 14 years, I think. Yeah, started in property, started in the UK in property, moved to Dubai, and now I've got about 6 or 7 different companies, mainly within the property sector. Got around about 3,000 properties either built or under construction right now. Got projects in the UK, got projects in Pakistan. We do a lot of stuff in Dubai as well. Got offices all over Pakistan, Dubai, London, New York, Houston. Across the group, employ north of 500 people. Yeah, I think that's kind of it.
And a lot has happened since we shot last. I mean, last time we shot was August 2020. Yeah, August 2020, which was in the midst of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So what has changed, and what are some of the things that you've been working on over the past year?
Feels like it's been longer than that.
It's been over a year, so we're almost October now. Just over a year.
I thought it was like 2 years.
No.
Really, it's been a year. That's it. Oh shit, man.
But a lot has happened in your life since then.
That's what it is. You realize that when you're busy and shit's happening, time periods feel like a lot longer. Like if I've got a few weeks that are chilled out, they'll fly by. But if I've got a few weeks that are hectic, those 2 weeks will feel like shit. I've just been through 2 months.
100%.
What's been going on since then? So I've acquired a new project which we're launching this month. It's medium-sized, small to medium-sized, 115 apartments. That's in Lahore, very super prime location. It's about a just over $30 million project. We're launching that in a couple of weeks from now. Working on some other stuff as well in Pakistan on the development side of things. I'm obviously into real estate development over there. We've got some big joint ventures that we're looking into for a few thousand units with some of the government departments over there, which I'm going for in a couple of weeks. And also launched my first sort of tech startup. Launched it actually today officially, you could say, because
we teased it in the last episode a little bit.
Yeah. So what I mean, I get a lot of requests online all the time from people like, I want to learn from you, and I've got this question for you, and can you tell me more about this? And obviously you reply to whoever you can reply to, but at the same time it's like, you've only got a certain amount of hours in the day. So I thought that, look, forget me, let's just zoom out for a second, right? what is business, right? Business is problem solving, right? It's about identifying problems in the world, in your own life, in other people's lives, solving that problem, right? If solving the problem costs you 1, then hopefully you can sell it for 1.5, right? And that's where you make your profit. And so I've always had that view. I always look at business as problem solving. And I was like, okay, hold up. There's all these people that have got this problem that they want to learn from other people. And you've got loads of people out there that have got so much knowledge, right? So let's create a platform where people can basically come onto there using, and it was a bit of the pandemic because Zoom became like really common, and online conferencing, video conferencing, and basically in an online area, they come on a platform where they can book time with anybody they want, right? And basically pay for someone to be their mentor. So effectively today was the first time I did a mentoring session with somebody. A lovely young girl reached out. She's got a recruitment business, and she was basically, you know, in the early stages of her business, and she wanted advice on certain areas of growth. She had an office in Pakistan where she had back office staff sort of helping her with different elements of the business. Obviously, I don't want to go into too much detail. That's her business.
Sure.
And then she had teams over here with the sales teams and she would just want advice on how I manage people internationally, how to grow the business, what she should be focusing her energy and her time on. And you know, the thing is that everything that she's gone through or going through, and will go through, 95% of it is identical to things that I've already been through, right? So things that took me 5-7 years and trial and error to learn, if she's got open ears and willing to learn and listen, I can teach her that in a 20-minute phone call, right? So the value that I saw that I gave to that person in that time frame was phenomenal.
Priceless almost.
Yeah, phenomenal, honestly. And you know, it's an exciting new chapter. Let's see how that goes.
I truly believe in it. I think it's a model. It's a future of education, because you know, like individuals like yourself, you've gone through these things. Not only have you already found the solutions to these problems, but then also you're then communicating that with that person who maybe would have never met you, would have never had the opportunity without a platform like that.
Well, the funny thing is that she booked a session, then she DM'd me on Instagram, and when I went into the DMs, she hadn't asked me any questions before, right? You think about it, this girl wants to have a mentoring session with me, right? But she's never asked me any questions before on my DM. Why is that? The reason is because she's like, I know he ain't going to reply for free. Do you get what I mean? Now, I'm not doing it. All my bookings, by the way, the whole, not like, profit, the whole amount of my bookings, if you pay for me, it's all going to charity. Because for me, it's a bigger picture. It's the wider business, right? But look at people's mentality. People's mentality is that, I'm not going to just send some random guy a message because I think he can help me, because he's not going to reply. But this is now putting that mindset in people. No, I can go and pay for this person's time, and I can take value from them in that time.
Which is interesting, because how many people are not DMing you in that case?
Yeah.
Who could actually benefit from the platform.
But a really funny thing is that all the people who have actually booked sessions with me have not DM'd me.
Wow.
And all the people who because I get so many DMs, and I'm thinking that, they're all going to be like
the reaching
out
people.
and booking sessions. None of them are. All the freebies,
the whole new market.
all the ones who want the free, all the ones who want the free information, they're not actually really to put their money where their mouth is. You know?
That's true. And it speaks volumes to those who will actually take action as well then, because a lot of the time the people that want the free information, are they going to execute?
There you go.
They don't.
Exactly, there you go. And so it's a phenomenal business opportunity. It's just about time, man.
How do you manage all of this? Because
I try and appoint the best person for a role and then take my hands off, which is easier said than done, but really that's what you need to do. You've got to put the right people in the right places and let them run the businesses. So you have an idea, you create it, and then you put someone and say, right, you run with this now. But
at the same time, I guess my question is why? Because obviously you can fill the right people in those positions, and you can continue to scale, continue to build hundreds of businesses. But what motivates you at this point, and what intrigues you to test new waters, tech startup, etc.?
Because it's just like, for me, life, like we're all blessed with certain talents, right? Think of yourself as an athlete, right? Let's say, because everyone can relate to sports, right? And I think football is probably the most popular sport in the UK. So let's talk about football, right? Until a footballer gives his full commitment in training and development, tries different styles, tries different positions, he's never going to work out how good he really is. Do you get what I mean? It's the same thing for me. I'm like, until I don't keep testing myself in different ways, I'm not going to know, like, you know, how great or how good I am. And it's not even just about that for me just to know. It's also about, like, that is how you know, the what you're blessed with in terms of talent in life, that's how you maximize that. And I think even on a world level, right? On a spiritual level, if you want to call it, or whatever sort of, as a responsibility in life, I think when you come into this world, you've got a responsibility to give your best to this world. Because if we look at everything around us, it's all built by human beings, right? Wherever we are in the world today, all of these innovations, whether it's cars we travel in, aeroplanes, or phones we use, technology we use, it all came down to human beings who said, you know what, we want to do things better. We want to do things bigger. Do you get what I mean? That process, that's how I see business. That's how I see entrepreneurship. I don't see it as, oh, let's make a quick buck. How do I make a profit? Yeah, that's important. You need to cover your bills, etc., and business is to make money. But at the same time, innovation in the world, the moving forward of humanity relies on entrepreneurship. If there wasn't entrepreneurship, we'd still be in caves. Seriously. It's the motivation to want more and to do more that moves the world forward, right? Mm-hmm. That's what it is. Right, but I mean, you just saw my son earlier. He's gone to bed now, but I've taught him from this age. He knows that if you ask him, he's 5 years old, you ask him what is business.
He's a very smart child, by the way.
Yeah, you think so? Thank you.
Very like well spoken, and he's aware of everything that's going on around him. We thought he was older than he is.
No, he's 5. I mean, on parenting, we're like, I've got a certain way I do my parenting, but there's one thing is that most important is I always speak to him like he's an adult, right? So even as a kid, when he was 2 years old, I wasn't like, if he couldn't say a word properly, I wasn't like making up a word and think, oh, look how cute he is. I always spoke to him properly like he is an adult, right? Like speaking to him like you would to any other human being. And I have conversations with him about everything. And when he asks me questions, I answer them like it's an adult asking me a question. It's like you're asking me a question, the way I answer it. So if I'm on the phone taking a work phone call and he's like, Baba, why did you say that? Or what is going on? I will explain it to him, break down from beginning to end.
Wow.
Yeah, if he's like, so he used to he comes to the office, and he came to the office the first time he came, and I was like, was everyone working? What was going on? Nope, nobody was working. They were all on the phones, just chatting away on the phones. So I explained to him, so, you know, we build properties, and those properties need to be sold. So these guys, they're on the phone to people who want to buy those houses, and he's like,
so they were working.
Yeah, he's like, so they want to move into them. I was like, yeah. He's like, but yeah. Then now he's cheeky. So now he comes back and says, one guy wasn't working, he was just on his laptop the whole time. Now he knows on the phone is working. And so, but the point is that, you know, if you ask him now at 5 years old, what is business? He says, business is problem solving. That is the mentality you need to have. When you start understanding that business is identifying problems in the world and making things better, improving things.
And what's crazy is it, from my journey in business as well, like I've realized, you know, I always had the understanding as well that the ultimate function of your business is to solve some sort of problem. Yep. But even beyond that, on a day-to-day basis, you're constantly solving problems within your organization. Whether there is a problem here, there's a problem here, but you're solving those problems. Mm-hmm. And it's never ending, really. So that's kind of why I wanted to understand, you know, where does the hunger come from now, past having achieved this success? And I also want to really focus on what happens when you do make some money, because there's a lot of people that either get comfortable and then they don't want to push further, and then there's others that maybe lose it all. And then there's a few, you know, small examples like yourself where people will keep pushing, keep pushing and trying to get to the next level. So
I think, see, that's what really, I'll start with the last part of your question, which was, where does hunger come from? That depends on your motivation, right? So if your motivation is purely your pocket and money, you will get to a certain stage where you're not motivated anymore.
Because you've hit that target.
Because you've got... Yeah, exactly. You've hit your target. I don't have a financial goal, right? What is my goal? What I said to you earlier. My goal is to make the most of the talents of my life that I've been blessed with. I don't know how far that will take me. It might just take me 2 steps forward from where I am, for all I know, right? I might already be at 99% of my capacity, for all I know. I don't think I am, but it could be. But my goal isn't that I need to hit this financial landmark and then I'm quitting
But
out the game.
do you think that is sabotaging yourself, not having a certain financial target? Or do you think that once you've hit the basic threshold of a financial target, beyond that, then you kind of say, I don't need any more?
Look, my financial target was when, in 2011, right, which is 10 years ago, from people who watched the last episode, I think we talked about it then. I came back to London, I had £500 in my pocket, and which 450 of I paid for rent, and I had £50 left, right? And at that point, I set myself a target that I want to have probably, I don't know, £5,000 a month income, or maybe it was even £3,000 or £4,000 in income, and £10,000 in savings, right? That was my target.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted £10,000 in savings because I was like, any day I need to have like at least 6 months worth of money saved away that can help me survive 6 months if things go wrong. So, that was my
at that point target. You were a different stage in your life.
That was my financial target, and beyond that level of comfort, I've never had a financial target after that. I do have one. I like to always have just £1 million in cash in my bank account. That's one thing. I like to do it, and I do that. I keep that there. I don't know. It's just a mental thing that I've just got £1 million.
You want to have some liquidity, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's useless. I don't know.
Seeing the zeros.
It's not. Yeah, I don't know. It's a level of security. Why do we go in? Why do we do business in life? Why do we go out and do things in life? And whether it's getting a job or starting a business, it's for security, right? The first thing, no matter how grand we talk about my vision to change the world and make it a better place and all the rest of it, the first basic instinct is your own survival. Mm-hmm. After that comes everything else, right? So I have that one thing where I like to just keep £1 million in my bank account, and I'm like, okay. And as long as I've got that, beyond that, I don't think I've got any other financial goals.
So financial goals aside, you were saying like there was other.
I've never told anybody that, by the way. So,
what, the £1 million thing?
Yeah, I've never told anybody that.
I mean, most people would never be able to even fathom it, and it's interesting to hear that because you're so open, and I think that's where people really benefit.
It gives me a sense of security. It makes
me
feel
goosebumps. But yeah, so at this point, it's not about finances. Obviously, it's about other things that are important to your kids and so on. And I guess passing it on to the next generation and benefiting.
I don't know about that,
Yeah?
I don't know about that. I was reading the other day, I read this quote and it made so much sense to me. It was by my cousin. He put it on his Instagram. And it said that the biggest injustice you can do for your child is de-risking their life. Right?
Because they become entitled.
Bro, when life is de-risked, when you're like, okay, you know what? My dad left me £100 million, right? In cash, assets, businesses and real estate, right? And you've got 2-3 kids and they've all got that each. Their perspective on life is different all of a sudden. And, they've got a different mindset. It's not, where does your motivation then come from? Where does your drive to take big risks come from? So they say it's an injustice. You're basically taking away their livelihood by doing that to them.
Wow.
Yeah, think about it.
And it's funny because we work so hard to be able to think of the idea of giving back, but in reality, again, like you said, that's sabotaging them.
Yeah.
So where do you find the balance?
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. I don't know what to do. I only read about it a week ago. I'm still thinking.
So where did the inspiration for treating your son like an adult, where did that come from? Was it something that you studied over time, or?
There's various things that I've read about parenting. He's also tech free as well, so he doesn't watch TV, doesn't have a phone, iPad, nothing, no tech at all. It's difficult because when we travel, for example, like the guy just running up and down the airplane, right? But, you know, in this day and age with so much tech around.
It's a rarity, honestly.
Yeah. It's with so much tech around, I just like feel like, you know, the good old school wholesome sort of upbringing we had, running around the park and you know, being bored and having
Being
to work
engaged with the real world.
Yeah, just and you know that being bored makes you creative. Just sitting there and having to make some game up, like I'm pretending and acting and all these kind of things. So yeah, so I read a bit about parenting, and I just knew that, you know, he's like just try and give my knowledge and my understanding. Children are, you know, my parents were very different when I was growing up. Strict, right? Busy and strict. That's what they were, right? And very typical sort of parents of, I'd say, probably like in our community in the 80s and 90s, right? And I was like, you know, children are so moldable. You want to give them information. So from a young age, I've been, you know, teaching about the world and how things work. Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit. You mentioned that obviously this is something that we spoke about in the previous episode where you came back to the UK with £500 and your motivation went to 4 or 5 grand a month. But what happens when you get to that point? Because obviously there's a lot of people, like I said, they get to the 6-figure mark, let's say, and either they completely lose it all or they just get comfortable. So what are some of the biggest advices or changes of behavior that have to happen at that point? Because when you came from nothing, you were self-made, you built, you had loads of hardship, and then you got to a certain point. What is the next point? What comes next after that, and how do you scale essentially to 7, 8, 9 figures?
I mean, it's pretty evident in front of me where I'm going and how the businesses are growing. When you say how, do you mean what changes in
What
businesses?
changed in you, firstly? What changed in you as an individual? Because the Z, coming from nothing, getting to that number that you had dreamt of, post hitting that number and then realizing, okay, what now?
Look, I was just. If someone said to me, Z, what is the recipe for your success or to get to where you are today? It's been a mindset in me that I'm gonna make some big shit happen, right? Even when I had nothing, I had that in my mind, right? And people would often say to me that you're deluded, right? Because I had nothing and I was talking like I'm God knows what, right? People would say you're deluded, but I always had that mindset. And then I always had just the ambition to run at shit, just jump in the deep end, just jump in the pool and figure out how to swim. That kind of mentality, and just keep pushing ahead. And the rest.
Let me give an example.
On your journey, you learn things and you pick things up.
Let me give an example. So recently, over the past year, I've really tried to do things that I haven't done in the past. So for example, change of environment, going to a different gym, you know, experiencing new things so that I can really tap into a whole new mindset and be around different things. Because when you're growing up in a certain area, sometimes you're a product of your environment.
Yeah, of course you are.
So you want to eliminate that as much as possible. And that's what I have kind of thought about recently is maybe removing myself from certain areas, removing myself being around certain people, and just that kind of thing. So was there anything that you changed in that process where you realized, okay, now I've got a bit of money, now I need to avoid doing this and try to do more of this? Or was it just, you were just learning as you were going along?
And see, I get exactly what you're saying, and that makes a lot of sense, right?
You didn't it?
No. I'll tell you. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I was just a workhorse, right? So forget good people or bad people. I just cut all the people out, right? And I was just like in a shell, just working. And even now, when I get into work mode, that's how I become. But I understand the value of network and having people around you to learn from. And I was lucky that over the years, not consciously, but subconsciously, I did, without knowing the 5 people you surround yourself with and average net worth, and just by default, I ended up surrounding myself with certain people who had achieved a lot in life and came from a different background as me. And I saw that their mindsets and the way they operate is very different, to what my mindset was. You know, things that I thought were a big deal were not a big deal to them.
So what were some of those things that their mindset was different in that you noted?
Like just sitting down, and early days of my career, you know, talking about a deal that would bring me 20 grand was like, whoa, big, that's a big deal, right? And these guys will be sat there talking about millions flying around, right? And you just realize that it's the same effort that you put in, where you can do a deal to make 20, or you can put the same effort in and make 1 million or 5 or 10, right? It's not, there's no difference in it. It's just about having the bigger vision.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the
Bigger
most...
balls.
Sorry?
Bigger balls.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if I was to track back in my career and go back 10 years, 15 years and say, okay, if you were going to do something different, what would it be? It would be dreaming bigger from day one, right? Not thinking that this is a long staircase and I've got to take every small step once at a time, slow and steady wins the race sort of mentality, right? I would have gone straight in, a lot more bold, and made a lot bigger moves, because it takes the same amount of energy and effort to do a big move as it does a small move.
But do you think that when you make those big moves, you have to calculate the risk as well? Or do you think that you should just take those steps and be bold?
Be bold. Look.
Because if something goes wrong, it goes wrong.
It'll go wrong when you're doing something small. Right? Business is a process of failing and learning and growing. Failing, learning, growing. There's no other way to learn in business than to try it out and get it wrong. Right? Unless, in certain specific areas you can get a mentor and they can teach you certain things. Right? But generally, before you even get to a stage of having a mentor, you need to be in that process of failing, learning and growing. Right? So if it was me, I would just, my thing was that I thought, right, if I've got 10 grand, if I earn 50 grand a year, 40 grand a year, for example, my mindset was that everyone else is the same as me. But it's not. There's people earning billions in a year, right? So why are you thinking that the whole world is the same as you? I'm talking in terms of my property and development, right? And because I'm always thinking at that stage, I'm thinking okay, let me find cheap shit to sell, right? Because people will buy that easier. Why? They won't buy it easier. It's just as hard, if not harder, to sell somebody with a little bit of money a cheap property than it is to sell somebody who's got loads of money an expensive property, because it's a much smaller decision for him.
Wow, I like that actually.
Yeah. So just focusing on that bigger picture and not being afraid to reach the stars. People often think that, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough yet. But you'll see people around you who are young or younger than you or the same age as you, and they're doing this big shit. And you'll see the only difference in them and you is the fact that they had the balls to go and ask the question, right? They had the balls to walk into Coca-Cola's office or call Coca-Cola and said, we want to do your next campaign. You know what I'm saying?
I love how you always relate it back to me somehow.
Because you asked me the question.
So, do you think that property is the best investment? And the reason why I asked that is because I think a lot of people over time have now started realizing new kind of, investment methods such as crypto, online, various things that you can do. But you've continued to stay in that space of property and only get bigger and bigger and bigger. So is that something that you would advise the younger viewers?
You've got me angry when you said crypto.
You don't like crypto?
No, but I don't even understand it, right? But what happened was that
have you not done anything about crypto?
I'll tell you, everyone was going on and on and on about crypto, right? Was it this year? I think it was
lockdown kind of wave, yeah.
But there was a 6-month gap where crypto was booming, going mad. And every man and his dog was either buying crypto, investing in crypto, or talking about crypto. And I'd never done anything in crypto. So eventually, I started hearing about it from credible friends of mine, right? These are people who are investors, who work the markets, invest in equities, make a lot of money, right? Millionaires. I'm like, okay. And then one of them gives me some advice, right, we're buying this coin. It's going to be 30, 40x within a month. Right, and I'm putting in 200 grand into this coin, and what we're talking about is this going to be worth 8 million within 30 days. I'm like, what fucking, this is mad.
Ponzi scheme.
Right? I'm like, this is mad, right? So anyways, what I did was that I didn't put in a massive amount, well, a reasonable amount. I put in about 100 grand into different cryptos. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin to the moon. Fucking, yeah, anyways, and then...
Elon Musk.
Yeah, it didn't go to the moon. And then there was Cardano and one or two others, right? Literally, the day I bought it, the next day, they were in free fall, right? And I was like, what is going on here? And Elon Musk cussed out Bitcoin a day later after that, and then this, and I don't know what. And China said that we're banning all this shit. And my 100 grand within like a month had gone to 40 or 50 or something. Apparently about a week it recovered. I
think it's just about recovered now.
I don't even look at it anymore. So, but apparently a week ago I did like, it's in somebody else's wallet, not in my own wallet. Because I didn't know how to download. It's so complicated. People are like, you got to buy this, buy Pancake and swap the Pancake around. I just gave someone the money.
When I first bought crypto, like my friend had to literally sit there on the phone for half an hour, explain the step-by-step process, and I wouldn't be able to repeat that process.
Yeah.
So it is definitely not made for.
So then, anyways, apparently, I think it came back up to about 90 or 95, but I've just left it now. Just see where it is in 5-10 years, and we'll see about it. Equities I invest in, the markets. I keep a piece of my portfolio in there. I keep it really simple, to be honest. I read a little bit about this, but when I like a stock, so how I generally go about it is that I look at my products and industries that I understand, right? And when I'm like, you know what, I like this stock, I'll go and research the stock, read about it, probably spend about 4 or 5 hours in different sittings reading about that one stock, different opinions, look at their financials to an extent, what is their future earnings, where they're growing, maybe listen to a podcast or an interview by the CEO. And if I like it all, then I'll put some money into it, that kind of thing. But property is just stable. It's just like, it's just, you know, it's the oldest investment known to man. It's simple. It's a basic need and necessity of every human being is a house, right? It's in your control. You run that show. If I'm going and buying a stock, if I'm going and buying crypto, yeah, I might be able to have this massive jump all of a sudden, but at the same time, that investment is out of my hands, right? I'm relying on some other CEO to run that business. Even if it's a property business I'm investing in, it's somebody else has got control versus me buying a flat, apartment, house, commercial building next to me where I control what's going on. So, I mean, look, for that reason, I'd still think property for me is the best investment, but you need to have a diversified portfolio. Where if you've got that kind of capital where, you know, you're sitting on millions, then you need to have your portfolio in various different things. You don't want all your eggs in any one basket.
And when we talk about property, would you say that international investments are better than domestic now? Because some people say the UK is saturated, it's capped now, investing in the UK.
Look, it really depends on what your goals and aims are. If you're like, you know what, I've got 100 grand sitting in the bank and I want that 100 grand to make me some money, then buying a buy-to-let property down the road from you is a great idea, right? But if you're like, right, I've got 30 buy-to-let properties, I'm making great rental income, everything's kosher, now I want to do something different and take a different risk, go look at international. Depends on where you're at, you know?
Okay. So Pakistan is one of those up-and-coming countries.
Man, Pakistan for me it's just, it started because I was born here, but I moved to Pakistan when I was 8. And I lived there from 8 until 19. So I grew up there, my teenage years were there. So I've always been very passionate about the place because I grew up there, right? And I just always wanted to do something. So when this China-Pakistan economic corridor was announced and Gwadar was supposed to be like this, Gwadar is going to be its linchpin, I went there to invest myself. When I went there to invest, the way I saw developers operating, it just didn't make me feel comfortable. And I ended up basically, again, that was a problem, right? I'm an entrepreneur, risk taker. I've turned up there, gone there, and I'm uncomfortable with the way they are operating, right? That's a problem. And that's a problem for me who's a risk taker. What about the average man sat here? So I was like, everyone knows about CPEC. Everyone knows about Gawada. I'm sure there's thousands of people like me who would like to invest, but they're not finding a safe and secure way to do it. And that's where that business was born from. And then as in any industry, as you go in, you learn more. And, I've been 5 years now, I've been developing in Pakistan, right? What I know today versus what I knew in the beginning is worlds apart, right? And as you start realizing different opportunities and different problems. And still now, when we're now moving into the major cities of Pakistan, just launched in Lahore, we've got land in Islamabad, we've got 2 pieces of land in Islamabad, we're talking about major joint ventures as well. And it's going to be a very big portfolio in the next 2-3 years. It's already very big, but it's going to be much bigger in the coming 2-3 years. And you look at things and quality of development's not right over there. Transparency is not there in the market. They're not putting buyers first. So there's a lot of things that are wrong that I'm doing right. So that's what creates the opportunity. And then the biggest thing is that you've got around 5 million people of Pakistani origin who live all over the world. A couple of million in the Middle East, and a couple of million between UK, US, Europe, Canada, etc., the Western world. And every year they're sending back around about $35 billion to Pakistan. It's not documented yet, but it will be in the next few years because of certain systemic changes they've brought, the government has. But of that, around about 10% they say goes into real estate. So $3.5 billion every year goes into real estate. There's not one specialist developer, right, who develops just for that $3.5 billion market. So you've got a market of $3.5 billion a year at least, right? But there's not one player that says, we are catering to this market. Well, there is now. So that's what we do. That's where we come in. That's what we do. We are overseas Pakistanis ourselves, and we are developing for overseas Pakistanis. It's a unique model. It's different, but it's good. It's good.
What are some of the challenges of, obviously Pakistan is like your own, but then you also trade in Dubai and you trade in London as well. So what are some of the cultural differences in operating a business in different markets? Because this is quite a selfish question. I'm planning on launching my business properly in Dubai very soon as well. So it'd be interesting to hear your perspective on the cultural nuances.
Look, there's a lot of differences between those two territories. Operating in Pakistan is very difficult. It's very difficult. There's so many things that you've got to look out for. It's not for everybody.
It's a dog eat dog place.
Yeah. It's just a different kind of place, I mean, there's so many times that I've been like, what am I even effing doing this for? Right? Why? I could be doing business anywhere in the world. When I'm traveling back there, I'm there once a month, right? And I'm away from my family, away from my kids, and I'm like, what the F am I doing this for? But, I've gone so far down that journey at this stage in my career. I'm 36 years old, so I've committed the last 5 years to that place. And I know so much now that it's almost difficult to take a step back as well, where you're like, I'm at this place where if my knowledge before was 10, I'm now at a knowledge of 65, 70, right? I've got to capitalize on this before, otherwise what do I do? Start all over again somewhere else and start learning and growing and et cetera, et cetera. So, but when it comes to differences, it's very different.
It's opposite almost. Like,
well, Dubai is a very easy place to set up a business and start a business and operate, but at the same time, it's very competitive. It's a small market. There's only a few million people, right? This overseas Pakistani population I'm dealing with of 5 million people, that's bigger than the Dubai population. Pakistan itself has 220 million people. That's consumers at the end of the day, right? Who buy stuff, eat stuff. You know what I mean? It's a very small market, Dubai is. And then, it's they've got their own culture. of who they give preference to.
I know what you mean, but yeah. Okay, so that's super interesting. Now, I want to talk about fitness actually.
Yeah.
Because I was just while you were talking, I was thinking.
But you've gone into all of this, right? But what we haven't discussed, right? You asked in the beginning, and we briefly touched on it, but I think there needs to be more detail on that. Like, you know, projects in Pakistan, construction projects going on, business in Dubai, offices in the UK, US, etc. How does one manage that?
Yeah, honestly, how?
And so I'll tell you something interesting. Now, over the last 18 months, right, apart from certain periods of time, I have at most 2 to 2.5 hours work a day. Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. And I can track back 5 years ago where I would do, out of a year, I would do 11 months of 16, 17-hour days. Doing a fraction, in terms of output, doing a fraction of what I'm doing now. To turnover, let's say.
And your business has only grown in that process. So what changed?
Of course. What I realized is, and what you have to realize to scale and grow a business, and it's not relevant to everybody, by the way. It's not if you're starting out in your business and you're 2 years in, don't listen to this and think this is what I need to do now. It's not, right? This is when you've got your business to a mature stage where you've got an established model, right? You know exactly what your business does, right? We buy this, we put it in this box, and we sell it. When it's that simple, this is when you can start doing these things. But what you have to do is you have to bring in the best people, the experts in different areas, put them in their jobs and take a step back and let them run their departments. But it's got to be the best person. You've got to go and hunt and find the best talent.
And be willing to pay for those rates.
Be willing to pay. You know, if you're hiring for a role and one guy you're getting for 15 grand a month and the other guy's 25 and you're like, you know what, I'd rather save that 10 grand, it's going to cost you 1,000,000 times over. The 25 grand guy will make you his money back in his first month. Find the best people, because you know why? The best people in life, they are so proud of themselves. That's what makes them successful. Their pride in their work and themselves is what makes them successful. That they don't need micromanaging. You don't need to control them and help them and push them. They themselves are motivated to that level.
They treat it like it's their own almost.
Of course, because they're so motivated in their own life to be the best version of themselves, to prove themselves. You need to find those people, and then after that, your job is to manage those people. So it's to get the output from them. But just to get yourself to a stage where you can get the output from those kind of people is a huge process in its own.
So now that you have scaled your days back and you've got the best people in all those positions, what does your day consist of? What does your day look like?
A lot of board meetings, right? So I have different boards for different departments. So we've got a construction board, we've got marketing board, we've got finance board, and basically there's you sit in those boards, and what happens is they're working all week, and the big decisions come to the board, and you make the decisions on the day, and they move on. That troubleshooting in Pakistan is still a big part of it. Government relations and things like that in Pakistan. Finding new sites, finding new opportunities, that kind of thing.
So would you say that
But the business is run through board meetings.
So would you say that now you're the most fulfilled? Are you the most fulfilled in your life now compared to the early days where you were grafting 16, 17 hours?
I've got a lot more free time now on my hands than I had before, to do things that I enjoy. But I'm still learning and growing. You know, even business and money, right? It doesn't bring you contentment in life, permanent contentment or happiness. right? It's what are we all doing this for at the end of the day? Whether it's business or career or whatever you're doing, it's to be happy, right? So that's there's various things that I'm also looking into, reading about. Is how do you just be content in life? How do you be not saying lose your passion and energy and drive, but when it's all said and done, how do you just be like, how do you enjoy what you have, and it's internal. And for entrepreneurs and highly driven people, it's actually a conflict, because the way we're wired is to want more and want more and want more and do more and faster and quicker and now and more, right? But then on the other side, to enjoy life and what you have, you've got to slow down and just be like, you know what, like live in the moment instead of future of more and more and more. Live in the moment and just appreciate what you've got and what you've created, and yeah. So this life's a self-discovery journey as well. Just learning. I was meditating quite regularly this year, but I've given that up again. And those kind of things are good, to sort of ground yourself.
It's very ironic that you said that, because recently I've gone through a few things as well where you hit business deals that you've never hit before, and you expect to feel something, and then it's just quite numb, and then you're thinking about, okay, now let me deliver, or let me think about the next thing.
Yeah.
And it never stops. It
Exactly.
never really stops.
Yeah, that journey, that it's a never-ending process. So you've got to learn to, first of all, sort of slow down and enjoy the moments of life, and celebrate the victories. Because then what happens is that you, like, initially you set out and your goal is that, I want to achieve this milestone. When you achieve that milestone, all of a sudden now everyone around you looks at you in a little bit of a different way, and you feel like more pressure's on your shoulders. And that pressure only increases and increases and increases and increases as you go more and more and more and more. It's a pressure cooker that everyone's like looking at you, and you're thinking, it, like, for me, it's cool. I love it, right? But at the same time, you've just got to find ways to slow down a little bit and look after yourself. And I think it's good to do that early. Start doing that earlier in your career, where you're taking time out to balance your life. Often you'll see it's like, experienced entrepreneurs talking about these kind of things, right? It's because their life becomes so one omni-channel, and they feel so unfulfilled that they have to look at, like, okay, what is going wrong? Where can I patch this up? So it's better if you do these things from the early stages of just appreciating whatever you have. It doesn't have to be millions and billions and hundreds of millions, or just appreciating your small victories, celebrating them, and being in a habit of enjoying life, and not just being on the rat race.
Because when you're on the other side, you assume that those big wins are what is going to be associated with happiness. But then you realize that the small wins, the big wins, regardless, they're still wins.
Of course.
And so you have to appreciate them all, because otherwise your desire will only increase, and you'll only respect those bigger wins, and it will just never end.
No. It's all about perspectives. Look, today, what is a big win to you today won't be a big win to you in 24 months. So what is a big win? There is no such thing as a big win. It's always getting bigger, isn't it? If a big win to you today is signing a £100,000 deal, right? And you sign it and you're like, okay, but straight away, the way you're wired as an entrepreneur is you're like, fuck, if I just signed 100, that means I could sign, these guys are actually paying some other agency £500,000. Fuck, I need that $500,000. So, so that's now the big deal. Then you get to that $500,000, you're like, you know what? This agency is getting paid $5 million, right? So it's never ending. You've got to learn to enjoy it at the same time.
Let's talk about that, actually. Let's talk about competition.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm guessing over the years you've had a lot of competition in your way. You mentioned like this agency might be doing 5 million, 500, and that's very true, because our eyes often do look at people around us, or people in the same space as us, and sometimes our ambitions are based on other people's achievements. So what's your advice on competition? Because it can often put people in a box where they never really achieve that goal that they want, because they're too busy looking left or right.
I've never ever, and I'm saying this like with 100% honesty, I never ever look at what anybody else is doing. I do not give a fuck what anybody's doing. Seriously. Like, if it's in a way, in
Have
that
you always
business
been like
way,
that though?
yeah, I've always been like that. It's just my confidence in me. I don't give a shit. Like, I've had people in my company will come to me and say, look what our competitor's doing. I'm like, I don't give a shit, right? I'm focused on what I'm doing. And yeah, I might look at it and take, if there's something that clicks that I think, okay, that's good or bad or something, but I'm not paying attention to that, you know? I'm confident in what I'm doing and I'm carrying on my path. In the same way in life, I might look at my friends and what they're doing in an appreciative way, right? And be like, yeah, oh, cool, man.